which Frank took that vamp and then took and wrote this whole other thing that we called 13 also, which we played during rehearsal during the band I was talking about with Vinny in it, and it was this really great tune. It was like a whole different thing from Tink Walks Amok. The bass part was the same, but there were some other parts that were very different. All the parts on top, and we had played it. It was really great, and in fact, I had written the whole thing down and has some rehearsal tapes of it. And then it kind of got forgotten, just kind of got left by the wayside. And then Frank, actually, when we were recording the tracks to Tink Walks Amok, I think first he had just a drum machine beat, and I was just playing a bunch of stuff to that. And I remember he was like, for the first part of it, he was like, I was playing this lick, and he'd say, okay, now go to the A string, while we're recording. And I was like, okay, now. And I go, oh, what? I go, okay, now go 2 frets up. Okay, now. Like as we're making the take, right? And make this whole thing up, and then he says, oh, remember 13? Go start playing 13 now. And so I did that. And I mean, of course, we're punching in and assembling as we go and stuff, but and so I recorded the bass part to 13, and that's the whole next part of it, and then I overdubbed a couple of things. He had some little kind of, I don't know, something called a micro bass, which is sort of a miniature bass thing that has that sort of funny kind of hollow sound to it. And so overdubbed a couple tracks, and so it was really a lot of fun, that was another really fun thing, was being with Frank in the studio and getting to be creative on that level, which is a little different from the band thing.
In musical terms, do you think anything peculiar about that song? What's rhythmically?
Well, rhythmically it's weird, but it's got some strange things. It was actually we used that 13 vamp to audition drummers when Vinny quit that band, and even though it's not really all that hard. It's just like if it's a bar of 5/8, then a bar of 4/4. It's like 1 2 1 2 3 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's really all it is. It's not all that complicated, but boy, it sure threw a lot of guys off. It was we used that as the kind of dividing point. It's like, okay, here's a new drummer, how you doing? It's like, okay, can you play this thing? It goes 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 1, and the guy would try and what's that again? And if the guy couldn't get that pretty quick, we'd say, well, thanks a lot for coming down. So yeah, I mean, rhythmically it's very strange. If you want a little while, actually, we'd made with the band from Utopia about a year ago, made a demo tape with Chad Wackelman on drums, of playing the version of it more like we used to do. Well, it's actually kind of a combination of the first part, Tink Walks Amok, then when it goes into 13, it's like the way we used to do it in rehearsal, with the full band, and we did an arrangement of stuff. That was pretty cool. You like that? In the hopes that maybe a band from Utopia could get a deal sometime.
You were Frank's assistant in those auditions for drummers.
Oh well, I mean we all were. Yeah. I mean not any more than anybody else. I was the by that time I was the clone meister, So yeah, it was my job to tape record all the rehearsals. With Frank would make up all the stuff on the spot. You do this, and you do that, and you do this. And it's a million things. You go home and your brains are all scrambled, and you walk in the next day and you can't remember half the shit he says. So it'd be my job to take the tape home and then go home afterwards and sit there and listen to it and make notes and remember, okay, Tommy's supposed to do this and he's supposed to do that, and don't forget this, and so remember. So then to come in the next day when Frank wasn't there the first part of the rehearsal and say, okay, let's do this song. We'd run through it and say, no, stop. Remember, Tommy, you were supposed to do that there, and you were supposed to do that there. Okay, let's try it again. And just be the drill sergeant. And remind me, oh yeah, that's right, I was supposed to do that.
Okay.
Now let me just see who this is.
What line you have to play for Frank?
The most difficult.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think that probably the that thing he asked me to audition on, the melody to the middle part of St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast. When we played it live, I would play the regular bass part for the first half of it or so, and then I would pick up the melody for the second half, and that's pretty hard. Check out there's a pretty good version of the way we used to do it on I think it's on. Can't do that on stage anymore. way at the end, there's that long version of Don't Eat the Yellow Snow where the guy gets up there and talks forever about his garden that grows weeds and stuff and all this crazy shit. And finally, way at the end, it was when the band's really sick to where we're all puking on stage and stuff. But we actually did it, and check out the bass playing in the middle of that if you want to hear some high-velocity bass playing, which I'd have to practice a lot again to be able to do.
What do you like about the bass line of Peaches and Regalia?
The bass line of Peaches and Regalia?
Was it that, when you played, was it the same as in the original work?
Not exactly, no. There was some things. Well, when we played it, there was that version of Peaches 3, and that, had a bunch of different arrangement stuff in it. There was a few little tricky things that we ended up getting in there, too. I don't know, but on the original, it certainly has a cool, interesting bass. What was the guy's name that played on that? It was, God, I can't remember now, but it was... No, it was somebody else on that particular song. I can't remember. There was somebody else, Pee Wee or Junior somebody or something like that.
Chuggy Otis.
Chuggy Otis, that's it. Chuggy Otis, yeah.
Jr. was a guitar player.
Yeah, very interesting bass player on the original version. What a great song.
Okay, did you know that Frank's favorite instrument was bass in the first place?
I never heard that.
In his autobiography, he says.
He does?
So, yeah, and because he wouldn't be make a living or be a hero, so by playing bass, so he had to switch to guitar.
Boy, that's...
was there...
I don't remember that part.
Did you...
I remembered him. I thought he played drums first.
Yeah, I know, but he liked the sound of bass.
Oh.
Maybe
he said that he
during
liked...
your visit to his band that bass was kind of instrument that he cares.
Especially about?
Yeah.
No, I would say I would say he favored the drums a lot. Actually, he was always real. I mean, it was the drum parts. He took a lot of care with the drum parts, and it was a great gig for a drummer to have. It was a real definitive gig for a drummer to have. You had to really be an excellent drummer to be able to fit in with Frank's music.
About your recent work, what do you do now? You have your own studio.
Yeah,
I
have
film work, and you have really a couple of solo albums.
Yeah, I've done a couple of solo albums.
Could you describe them?
Well,
I have heard only the newest one.
Oh yeah, I'll have to get you a copy of Music for Listening. I think of my albums as just kind of collections of stuff. They're not really, they don't have any particular grand theme to them or anything. I don't have a great volume of output like somebody like Zappa does. I'll never be as prolific as somebody like Zappa. But there's a certain kind of music that I like to hear. It's music that every now and then I'll sit down and I'll say to myself, what kind of music would I like to hear? I spent a lot of my career, doing things that I, think would please somebody else. Whether even if it's Zappa, or any other number of people that I might have worked for as a sideman. You're, saying, well, how do you want it to be? And you try to do that to help another person. So it's just me, finally sitting down and saying, well, what kind of music would I like to hear? And some of it is, definitely Zappa influenced. I'll admit it. But I really like that kind of music, and especially now, I guess that Frank is gone. The only way I'm going to hear any new music of that nature that I like is if I do it myself, I suppose. If I want to hear anything new. So, I like to do that kind of thing. I played some of my stuff for Frank, and he liked it, and I prefaced playing it for him by saying, well, I hope you don't mind. I'm pretty influenced by you. And he kind of thought for a minute, and he says, "Well, I can think of worse things to be influenced by." I think he was sort of flattered.
Yeah.
You know, it was not easy to get Frank to listen to something else that you had done. Frank was always wanting to play his latest stuff. You know, he always had 10 million things to play. You know.
Your new album reminds us of Uncle Me.
Well, thank you.